The beginning.
Yeah.
You mean like
at 5?
Oh yeah, of course. And we'll just round robin it 5.
Okay.
I don't know if it's called round robin when there's 2 of us.
Robin rounds.
We'll tennis it back and forth, and you can say, "Ooh, that was an ace."
All right, let's get that 10 seconds, and then it's all yours.
Sounds good.
Quite good. Attack warning. Attack warning. Is it for real? Attack warning. It's for bloody real.
Live from Colorado Springs, the Drop Culture Podcast.
Want to confirm, is this an exercise? Roger, copy. This is not an exercise.
Come on, put it down. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome, everybody, to the Drop Culture Podcast. We're that podcast where you pick up that piece of pop culture you forgot about or missed, shine it up real nice, and cram it in your ear holes. I'm Dan.
I'm Brock.
And, Brock, we're going to do something special for the Halloweeny time. Halloweeny.
Well, we should have actually done more because, but sickness, mental breakdowns.
I'm pretty sure that I was killed and came back resurrected.
I know my brain was.
I know my insides were.
I went and got a tune-up the other day in my fucking head. And it worked. I'm saying it's pretty good. I can sleep now. But this is one of the hardest fucking things that we've ever done.
I agree wholeheartedly that this is definitely and here's what we're doing this week. We're going to give you our subjective, again, realize that is subjective, top 5 horror movies of all time.
Our favorites.
Our favorites, yeah. Hence the subjective.
Way to use words. I have to, I notice myself doing that. I'll talk around something instead of just like words. Like, here's 2 words that would wrap up that 12 sentence thing you're going to try to explain so they don't ask questions. But yes, top 5 horror movies, man. I mean, what was the first horror film that you remember you watched?
That I remember I watched or that I was scared of?
That you remembered?
I would have to say, because I remember watching Jaws at a drive-thru on top of like my mom's friend's van. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I don't remember which Jaws that was. But I was a kid.
The Mario Van Peebles one?
I don't remember. I couldn't tell you because I couldn't give a fuck. I was never scared of Jaws. I was like, oh, fish.
It's a shark. Cool.
I live in Illinois.
It's never going to happen to me.
Only when I visit my family in West Palm Beach, I guess.
Unless a land shark gets you in Illinois.
And let's be real, when I went to the beach when I was a kid in Florida, it's not like I was anywhere where a shark that big could get to.
Yeah, and that one was actually
like
in a bay.
9.
Yeah, I'm trying to, because I don't think I.
But as far as movie, I was going to say, like, I think that made a significant impact on me would either be The Exorcist is a big one because I watched it when I was really young.
Okay.
But I would also say Poltergeist, the first Poltergeist.
Those are great ones too, because they are like a kind of more of a, I'm going to say mainstream kind of horror, but it's not mainstream at all. Well,
especially at the time like that they came out.
It was horror money. It was money horror. Yeah. So it was easy for a lot of people to get behind a Steven Spielberg horror movie than it would be fucking Romero.
Well, I mean, The Exorcist at that time, like when it came out, like people left the theater.
Yeah, and freaking like fucking
freaked the fuck out.
Yeah, he was a fucking dick too. He I don't know, the movie he made, it's still one of the greatest horror films of all time.
Sure.
Will always
It's
be
on
ranked
my
up
list.
there.
It's on my list.
It's like the Citizen Kane of horror movies.
I couldn't not because of when I watch it and that it impacted my life and I've told this before, but for like at least a year after watching that, I would every night go to bed, I would flip off my light, run like the Dickens to my bed, jump, put the covers over my head and pray to God I didn't get possessed by a demon
Yeah, right.
every night of my life for like a year when I was like 8.
Oof.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, how could I not have that on this list?
Right.
And it's a great movie. It was like done well.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. You appreciate it when you're younger because of the gore and the scare factor in it, things like that. Then you get older and you have different experiences in your life, so you get to see different parts of it. It's an evolutionary movie for a horror fan to go back to.
Well, and I think that one thing that I really like about those, not just that movie, but movies that tie into religion, I think have a deeper impact
At that time,
on culture.
yeah, at
You know what
that
I mean?
time, it was more mainstream. The religious part of it was
Well, I'm thinking
a little
like
bit
The
more
Omen.
prominent.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So like those things that tied into like what was at the being of being a person, being a human being, right?
Right.
Like it's intrinsically in all of us, right? But
Right.
there's also this, you know.
Yeah. What is
Here's
this?
the other side of that.
Yeah.
I know all your family reads this part of the Bible. Well, what about that?
Yeah. But what about this one where the Anunnaki? But no.
But it
yeah.
challenges you in that way, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think those are the ones that as you know, growing up and watching a lot of horror movies, I think those are the ones I really truly loved. Were the ones that get you on another level.
Yes.
Besides just like,
There's
there's a
levels.
killer.
Yeah.
and he's coming to get you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what's next?
Yeah. So what, you know, I get it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
scary, you know, but something that like can permeate into other things. And we'll get into that because there's a few of these movies that are on here on my list that really do that.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think of the first one that I really saw. But the first one that I can remember watching over and over again was Friday the 13th 3. Just because it was on video, and it was just over and over. You know, it had some girls in it. You know, it had nudity in that one. So it was
Yeah,
like
I mean,
little
that
kid, you're like, yes,
Score.
titties,
Boobs.
yeah,
Boobies.
and it had killing in it.
Yeah.
But the thing is like I was a fucking fan of Jason as a fucking kid.
Yeah. Right.
It's like I drew pictures of Jason. You know what I mean? I didn't draw pictures of fucking that little S symbol. I was drawing a hockey mask and shit.
Right.
You know
Sure.
what I mean?
Sure.
I was drawing his weapons, you know? I was making a G.I. Joe out of him.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's how tied in with horror movies I was at that time, because that was everything to me. It was something that nobody else had. So coming up with your top 5 is I based a lot of mine on the amount of times I watch the movie that I don't stop it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like I watch it all the way through every single time, no matter what. If I do stop it, I'll come back, but not like weeks later like I usually do. I can do that with movies. Like I'll watch like the first half of some movie and then have to turn it off, but then 3 weeks later I come back to it. I'm like, yeah, I'm at that part. Boom. I'm plugged right back in. You know what I mean? It's just like those links will help. But that's how I kind of looked at my list as to what I've seen the most.
Okay.
So
I put some parameters on mine because, or should I say that I haven't yet? Because I almost took sci-fi movies completely out.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because let's be real. If I'm including sci-fi movies, and are there sci-fi movies on your list?
You can consider one, maybe.
So one of them that made my list
Yeah.
broke my own rule that I made up for myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like for me, like Alien is a fucking horror movie.
Yes.
100%. That is
Aliens isn't.
no, 100% not. But Alien
Yeah.
is,
Yes.
and that would easily mix into this list as well. I didn't use that one,
Yeah.
but I do have one that is sci-fi based a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Because like I said, I made a rule for myself.
Yeah,
I made a
yeah.
parameter, and I immediately broke it because I'm like, I can't not put this movie on.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. I did think about that too. And I think we probably had a lot of the same processes going on about our selection. It was thinking about, okay, where do I draw a line? What is horror? And because my definition of horror and thriller are different,
Sure.
you know, and I really stand by that. Like Jordan Peele is not fucking horror. You know what I
Right,
mean?
sure.
That's a thriller. So you look at that and I'm like, what other movies are like that? They don't belong in the horror category, but yet you're like, are they?
Sure.
So it's hard to really kind of limit it. But like I said, that was easier for me to put the ones that I know backwards, forwards, inside out.
Sure.
All the special things about them, all the new little facts.
Little facts.
And it was so fucking difficult. I have a list when we started it, and I texted you, and I was like, good God. I didn't know how hard this was going to be. I thought it was going to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. No. So, who starts?
And we'll have you kick it off with your number 5.
Well,
Whoa.
I'm glad you picked me first because this is a hard one. 5, I don't have a actual number 5.
Okay.
I have so many that could fit into that spot. One of them is Tremors.
Okay.
I love that movie.
Sure.
I can watch it over and over and over again. I fucking love it. Everything about that horror movie is the shit. Not science fiction, nothing like that. It's just this really well done movie.
Sure.
Cool monster, man. Fucking the shit, right? Then The Bride of Frankenstein.
Okay.
I put that in the top 5 because as a horror movie goes, you can see where a lot of that shit has influence and transferred and morphed over time, but yet the same flow.
Sure.
Even from one of those Universal pictures, especially The Bride. You know, it's just, I don't know, it's just weird connected, and they have the little bitty miniatures in it and shit. And they're like, ee! They got the miniature Pope, the miniature King, the miniature Queen, and the miniature Barber. It's a newspaper boy. Huh? But it's fucking rad because again, you play into the emotion of fucking the monster, right? And then Frankenstein's doing shit against his will. And then you got the monster that's like, oh, friend, smoke, good. And, you know, he fucking killed a little girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's pretty evil.
He wasn't evil. He was just,
Yeah, misunderstood.
he just didn't know what he was doing. He's a fucking idiot.
You know, need new shoes.
He's Lenny from Of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
Tell me about the rabbits again, George.
Yeah, tell me about them wabbits, George. Just
Gonna hug them and squeeze them and love them.
hey, when I got older and learned that, that was the basis of that character. Like, yeah, it's fucking awesome. But then Night of the Comet,
Okay.
which again, watch it over and over again. It's just cool. I don't know what it is. Like, it's two chicks fighting off fucking weird red dirt zombies.
Red dirt zombies.
And it just doesn't make sense, but it does. And you got Hector, the Mexican dude. Fucking, he's like badass Chicote or whatever his name is on that fucking Eating Raoul TV show or whatnot. I love it too. Even today, I was driving and there was a license plate that had DMK on it, and I was like, God damn it! Wish I had one of those. BAS DMK.
Nice.
Then I put it on all the fucking Galaga games I go play. And then the final one on my number 5. And I know this is really, I mean, it completely broke the rules, but at
That's
the same
okay.
time,
We set
Yeah.
the rules. We can break them.
Yeah, it was so fucking hard to do it though.
Sure.
Is Day of the Dead.
Okay.
And Day of the Dead, it stayed really, that's why it was really hard, because I have another Dead movie on my list, of course. But this one is Day of the Dead just gets better every time. Every which way I watch it.
Nice.
No matter what copy, what version, anything like that. That's the cool part now is in my library I have multiple versions of everything. So I could be like, oh, I want to watch, Day of the Dead, the first DVD release.
Right.
The
sure.
Laserdisc version. You can actually do that now. So, and you don't have to have a million tapes, And there's still movies that you can get on video.
Sure.
On VHS. And I like watching movies on VHS, and this one is a great one for me because it does bring me back to the first time I watched it.
Sure.
It was like a tape that had been watched a million fucking times. And it's Day of the Dead, it's like boom. You see fucking Dr. Tongue and shit. So, hello! But you just know the music. It's all vibey and like bum, bum, bum. And like playing fucking drums, and it's great. And Rhodes is so fucking over the top and cool. One of my friends, fucking Chris, we would always watch that movie, and he would always be like, I'm running this monkey farm now, Frankenstein. Because we would just laugh and how fucking absurd it was,
Sure.
The soldiers were just like completely absurd. But then I started really digging in. Because that was the initial thing.
Right.
You see that as a kid, you see the gore, you're like, yes. And then you get to see a little bit more of the overall part where you get a little bit older. And then when you're even older than that, then you start getting the undertones that you never saw before.
Right.
You're like, yes. Some movies do that immediately, but some movies grow.
Sure.
And there's different parts of every movie that everybody grabs onto. And Day of the Dead is a complete work that is like ingrained in my brain.
Sure.
Like
ingrained in the membrane.
Yeah, ingrained in the brain. But yeah, it's just fucking love that movie. Everything about it. I love that they're like the actors and everything involved in it.
Sure.
Was I'm trying to figure out the best way, not saying a labor of love, but it was like, this movie was made out of love.
Yeah.
Like, people gave everything for this shit, and it was fucking good, Absolutely. Effects-wise, they worked with what they had. They had this little amount of shit, and they're like, bam, this is what we got.
Sure.
Let's do it, And it was respected, so it was kind of like, it was the evolution of zombies for me. But back in the day, it was like, I don't really know if I like it as much. But it is the shit.
Right.
That's why it makes, in that weird mixture of top 5.
And that was Brock's top 5 through 8. And that's okay. That's
5,
okay.
5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I could probably put 2 more.
No, that's perfect because I understand exactly where you're coming from. It's really hard to pare down to 5. Especially when it's 5 that your top 5 for you personally, right? Like, and there's so many that like top 10 would be hard enough.
Oh yeah.
Top 20 would be difficult. Top 5 is insane. So I'm going to do one quick honorable mention. There was one movie, that came out in 2018. That was really on the bubble of making my list that did not. But I want to shout it out because most of the movies that are going to be on my list are going to be older. But Hereditary by Ari Aster. That movie was legitimately scary. I watched it with my kiddo, and
Get you.
they were a teenager, you know what I mean? So it was cool. It was like that perfect time to watch that kind of a movie,
Yeah.
And it was done really well. Now, I do have problems with Ari Aster, because he made Aster, how the fuck you say his name? Because then he made Midsommar, and I watched that with my child, which you should never do.
I haven't.
We
watched
Googled. Like, I was thinking something like Evil Dead, right? Like comedy horror.
No.
And I was like, well, no, at Google,
Oh.
comedy horror. And that movie comes up, and I'm like, well, we're talking. I'm like, well, we watched Hereditary, and we loved it.
Yeah. This be good
So
too.
this will be great. And then it's like uncomfortable, weird sex shit going on. People getting sewn up in bear things. People getting crushed by. It's fucking weird.
I've
And
watched some of it.
I should not watch that with my child. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it was the most uncomfortable, like 2.5 hours of my life or whatever. But this movie was really good.
No,
Hereditary, very good.
Hereditary does belong in like it belongs everybody to appreciate.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, it's a fucking great movie.
But my true number 5 is the original Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. It was something I had never seen before as a kid, you know. I mean, again, I'm a child.
Right.
So I probably watched this, I don't know, as soon as it was out on, you know, the 6 months or year that it had to take to get on HBO back in the day.
Right, yeah.
Now it's like tomorrow it's on HBO.
Yeah, it's a year. It was a year back then.
Yeah.
Or like a year for
Video or, whatever.
6 months for cable.
Well, yes.
A year for video.
Or vice versa, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Anyways, and it was a long time.
Yeah.
So it was probably a year, at least a year after it came out in the theater.
Right.
I remember like sitting with my brothers and sisters over at my dad's house watching this movie and just being like, holy shit, like the part where he's dragging his claws across the pipes. Like, oh. Mm-hmm. And again, this wasn't just a straight up, I'd already seen Jason, I'd already seen Michael Myers. This was somebody that got into people's dreams.
Yes.
And affected like their physical form, you know, but like also psychologically.
Right.
So to me, that was way scarier than anything else that I'd ever seen.
It was heavy duty.
And then them building on that, and you know, got to a point where it was silly, of course, but like building on the lore.
But then you were attached to it after you watched it.
Right.
It was just like Friday the 13th. You get attached to it if you like that stuff. And
Yeah.
and that is a good like introductory type deal.
Yeah. And I
know,
think that
like-
they did a good job of building like he's the son of 1,000 bastards and
Yeah.
and all that stuff. You know, like it got deeper as it went along.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that he killed these people back then and then they killed him, which was still, even for the first movie, was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, this is why. Now we got to go kill him. You know, we're
Yeah. Now
again.
he lives. Your other kids are in trouble.
So yeah, and then of course it seemed like all those movies kind of ended with him like just creeping in the background doing something weird. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm still here, motherfucker.
He's
Don't go to sleep, bitch.
prime time, bitch.
The tongue coming out of the nasty.
There's so-
out of the telephone receiver.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Johnny
Dude.
Depp blowing up in a fucking waterbed blood fountain.
Like
How much
excessive.
blood is in a person? Jesus Christ!
It was fucking.
It reminded me of Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Like the Evil Dead, like the Army of Darkness when he goes down the hole and like how much blood comes up out of that thing.
Yeah. Just one dude too.
Yeah, so it's the same kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
So I would say this probably had, as far as like, especially out of the franchise kind of stuff, this was probably the one that had the most impact on me.
Yeah.
Because
No.
again, I think for me, horror has to not just be physical, it has to be somewhat psychological. And I think that that's really probably a lot of it. Why is because of movies like this. So that's my
It's
number
a good
5.
one. A Nightmare on Elm Street is the only legitimate movie that has ever scared me
Okay.
at any time.
Okay.
Like, I don't know why. I just know it's fake, and I'm like,
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. Ever since I was a kid, doesn't matter. The very first time that I saw it, my cousins, we were really big friends with them, right? So they would come over. My cousins, my dad's cousins, were almost the same age, shit like that.
Sure.
So they'd all rent movies and like come over to our house, drink whatever, smoke weed. I don't even know.
Sure.
And so they rented it, and they were like, "You guys can't watch this shit." And I'm like, "What?"
You wrong.
That was basically, I was like, "Huh?" And my parents were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "All right, I get it." You're like, "Oh, they can't, so you can't tonight,
Right.
but just wait till you're done." That's what I did.
Sure.
As soon as they left, it was like, I'm watching Nightmare. them showing that the woman crawling on the fucking ceiling, and him reaching out in that just kind of like that weird desperation, like, I don't really want to go that far, but I'm gonna give you some effort.
Right.
It's like, I'm gonna look at you. At least I'm not laughing.
Right.
It was fucking terrifying.
Sure.
Because of the movements, you know. And then when he's in the alley and his fucking accordion arms, just like, it's like, that would scare the holy living fuck out of me.
Well, and I think it's a lot of it for me too is like when they wake up, but they didn't really wake up and they're still in a dream. Like, that's a fear to me.
Right.
Period. Like, especially as a kid, I had like weird kid anxiety about weird shit, nuclear war and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Same here.
So like, if I woke up from a dream and I was still in that dream, and I would be freaking the fuck out. You know what I mean?
He was an evil fucking dude too.
Mm-hmm.
The bathtub scene is always something that anybody ever always goes back to because it was so tense.
Yeah.
Wes Craven at that point too, just the earlier movies for a lot of these people are fucking wonderful.
I mean, I would also give him props for like Scream.
Right.
Like the first one. The first one.
I remember seeing the first one, loving the franchise, you know, watching the TV show, everything like that. I didn't have the Freddy doll, of course, but I knew people that did.
Sure.
So,
I think that had the Halloween glove.
Right. Yeah. And then they bring it back, you know, and you're like, huh. And Scream just like really, I was excited for it. And when I got in there, I was like, all right, great. It was the update.
Right.
Update looks good. You know, and I thought it was going to stay that way. Then it got all fucking Saw-y and shit. Or Jeepers Creepers. Anyway.
So I guess we're to your number 4, sir. Number 4.
This is not going
to tell us a whole lot more.
This is not going to come as a surprise, but really, my number 4 is easy. It's going to be in my top 5. Mandy.
Okay.
Mandy is a beautiful movie.
Sure.
It's a disgusting fucking movie. It is, I don't know, awe-inspiring. Yeah, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things that I can say that it's just how wonderful the overall atmosphere of that fucking movie. If
Absolutely.
you're in it, and even the Jeremiah Sands where he's standing there and she's like, is this you? He's like, yes. And she's it's like, oh, fuck. And just the tension, you know?
For sure.
And the way he had that filmed, where it's showing everybody in the fucking room and what they're all doing. And as soon as he like gets dissed, he's like, oh, don't look at me. Don't look at me. But it just fucking kills, man. Because I saw the only reason why I watched it to begin with was seeing the preview. And, well, that's a good reason to watch it, you know. Because after you see that's what it's for. Stupid.
You stupid.
Hey, el stupido. Fucking superhero with that stupidity.
Wow. Be so hard on yourself, bro.
I'm sorry. No, it was just seeing him sitting on the toilet, drinking and screaming. I was like, that's something different.
Yeah,
For he's over the top, but this is like way over the top. And then you watch the movie and you're like, what the fuck am I watching? This is just that first scene leading up to, I don't know, after she dies, you know? And then just his like, it's almost like a video game going through there, killing all the fucking mutants and shit. He stops along the way to get a fucking weapon that only has 2 fucking arrows. He doesn't re-up, you know, and then he builds a fucking aluminum fucking baseball bat sword. What? Like, you can't forge that way. It would take fucking 8 hours for it to melt, motherfucker. Then you don't pour that in a fucking... But it's badass.
Right.
I wish I could make one that fast. I'm like, bing. Look at that shit. 15 minutes, brothers.
That's a little Evil Deadish.
Yeah, right.
You know?
It has that element. It has the absurd element to it. It has the the surreal atmosphere, you know, when that one dude that's in there, he's the chemist, you know, and the first thing you see is his hand going into the fucking acid shit. And then he's like licking his hand and shit. And he's like, oh man, you're right. Whoa. Just right there. And even he's at that different level too, because he took that one little, he like puts his finger in there and he's like, your fucking face melts and shit, for real. It's just, I'm like, I want to pick that dude's brain.
Absolutely.
Panos Cosmatos. He's the only director that fucking matters right now, I think. Everybody else can do great things, but this dude is gonna be different. He's like a Fulci. He's a fucking, I don't know, he's a Spielberg. Shit like that, man.
Okay.
But he is the one that's going to, I don't know, be fucking badass.
Right on.
Because Mandy is, and I tell everybody to watch it, and everybody I tell to, they're like, oh yeah, watch it. I'm like, you don't get it.
I really enjoyed Mandy.
That's
absolutely
wonderful, man.
I think we're getting a little renaissance of not necessarily independent horror movies, but like at least original kind of horror movies.
Yes, originality is what we're getting,
which is nice because it's been like 40 years or 20 years of just remaking the same shit.
Right, and they're still remaking the shit too.
Yeah, like Barbarian was, I thought, really, like it was different.
What the fuck?
What am I watching right now? But Mandy is a better overall horror movie, in my opinion. I just like that we're getting to see that kind of stuff, which is, again, why I wanted Hereditary. I wanted to throw that one out there because it was a good kind of original-ish, you know?
Mandy was the first movie in, I don't know how long, that I just was like,
what?
I'm watching it 4 times in a row. And I'm going to like sit through it and never look away. I'm like, sciatica acting up. I need to stand up and stretch. Fuck. That's how many times I fucking watched it the first time. It was like, it was amazing, man. I don't know. It's just, and that's the feeling. That's another reason why it's on the list, is because of the feeling that it gave me is like all the other ones coming up. Gave me the same feeling that first time. Like,
there you go.
That is one of the coolest fucking things I've ever seen in my world. It's like, it's like you file it. And like you were saying, it was the evolution, you know, you have these steps that take you a little bit higher into different horror and different things like that. And my movies hold places in those, you know, and I could look at it and be like, oh, this is a movie that I would tell this person.
Sure.
This is a movie I'd recommend for them, but I'm going to recommend everything anyway because I'm a dumbass and I'm like, watch this fucking really gross snuff film. It's fucking awesome.
Kinda,
No, but still, that's cool. That's one thing. I mean, shit. What are we taking in this world? I'm taking coolness.
Right. That's right.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's where I am with Mandy. I can't wait to see what he does, and hopefully they don't fuck him over.
Yeah. Yeah.
This could be his. I don't know. It's just like this effort that he could have right now. What he puts out on top of what he's already done. The output is going to be astounding. I hope. Even if we got that little taste in the Cabinet of Curiosities, with his One Tail, but still, it's there. His directing style, I want to see more.
Absolutely.
But now,
that was your number 4.
That was my number 4. Was Mandy from 2018.
Nice. I'm gonna roll the clock back a little bit instead of 2018, right? We're gonna take it back about 50 years.
78?
68.
Oh shit!
Would that be right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Math,
whatever. Doesn't matter.
The show.
To a film named Rosemary's Baby.
It's a great one
by Polanski. A little Roman Polanski action. One of the reasons I like this movie is the first time I ever watched it, I had no idea what it was about. I think if you know what it's about, then it's going to be kind of ruined for you in some degree. It's still a great movie, but the fact that I didn't know what was going on, I had no idea, made it so much better. And the tension that is created, the like, you don't really know
Yeah.
if it's real or what's
That
happening.
rise,
Yeah. So like you're kind of finding out as the main character finds out what's going on.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's more of a psychological horror than it is like
Yeah.
scary creature going to get
Yeah.
you. But it's really again
Not a giant
to
spider.
go back
Yeah.
tied into religion.
Yeah.
It's filmed very well, looks good,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that a lot of the direction lends to the tension that they build, along with some of the music, some of the other things. You know what I mean throughout the movie.
Yeah, and plus, Rosemary's Baby is so culturally connected. And I made that remark the last time me and my wife were watching it. I was like, you know how connected this fucking movie is to the culture in America, pop
Oh,
culture?
sure.
Just the hotel, that's where fucking Lennon got shot, right? That's where he was fucking living, you know what I mean? Sinatra and fucking What's Her Nuts before Woody Allen, the main girl, whatever her name is.
Yeah, sorry, I was listening.
Yeah. But they had it was a big deal whenever she
You're talking
did
about
that.
Mia Farrow, right?
Yeah, Mia Farrow, yeah. There's the people that are in it too were in so many other significant movies of the past.
And then the year later, you have Polanski with the whole Sharon Tate being murdered by the Manson
Right.
family thing, you know?
Right, exactly. And I was kind of just thinking, Jesus, where this fits in this is one of those pivot points in history, you know?
Well, and I think of all the movies that came out after this that were very similar,
yeah.
you know? And it's spoiler alert for a movie that's 50, whatever, you know,
Go
50,
see it.
60 years old.
Rewind the clock.
But I mean, the whole idea is that she's having the devil's baby.
Yeah.
She doesn't know that from the beginning. Like, life's normal, but they moved to this thing for a job, blah, blah, and in the hotel.
Right.
Yeah. In the apartment building.
Yeah.
So, how many movies after this came out with have the devil's baby or something to do with the Antichrist coming? I would even say like The Omen after this, obviously, which was different and off of a different book.
Yeah.
And all those
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But
it was different,
but-
definitely.
But again,
Yeah.
there's a progression there that we see. And then how many Antichrist stuff did we see in like the 90s,
Right.
the 80s? You know what I mean? Come
Even
on.
Schwarzenegger fought one.
Yeah, yeah. What was the other big one? Somebody else. Oh, they came out around the same time as they usually do.
Yeah. 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 They're like, oh, we got to have one too.
Whatever that End of Days movie that was the same but different
Yeah.
with somebody else.
With Denzel and The Fallen.
That was a great movie. Actually.
Yeah, yeah.
I like The Fault.
Every time I watch Rosemary's Baby, it's one of my wife's favorite movies, so she can watch it
nice.
anytime. And I love it, not because I've seen it so many times, but really the last couple of times I watched it, I've watched Guy in the back, her husband, right? Mm-hmm. I watch his reactions, try to figure out where they got him, right? And of course, after I really kind of looked into it, you see that moment. You're like, what the fuck, right? And then you're like, oh, they were fucking, they were almost making out on that fucking couch on the divan, you know? And they're like, oh, but then he is so instrumental in, you know, trying to keep her away from everything. And you're just like, what the fuck, right? It's like they had the perfect opportunity to take that over, so they kill the other woman. You know what I mean? And they make it, I don't know, they give it to her because she's younger, right?
Right.
And then he's got the husband. They can give him fame and riches and shit like that. And he like forsakes his own fucking wife. And in the middle of it, he's just like, like when she's like, this is fucking real. This isn't a dream. and the Satan dude, I wonder if, Mortimer or whatever, he was in Trading Places.
Yeah.
The head dude, his, her pediatrician or whatnot. I wonder if he was the fucking devil though, because looking at the features and the hair, things like that, I was like, is he that? Weird counsels.
Yeah. Well, I would say like there's other movies that I like we kind of mentioned like The Omen, things like that, which are obviously beyond kind of where this is. But like even movies like The Devil's Advocate,
Yeah.
I say have drawn a lot from Rosemary's Baby
Yeah.
and the
Oh,
way
yeah.
that was done. And I love that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like on my top 10 horror movies
Yeah.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So, like, I just think it influenced a lot of horror, and it was done very well. And there was a reason that
Yeah.
it's culturally important, you know?
Yeah, it really is. It was at a very good point. It was almost, it was like when Night of the Living Dead came out too. Just, huh?
Right.
Wow. You know, I mean,
Sure.
they didn't know what they were doing. They made something that was fucking cool, right? And they're like, hey, this is better than The Brain Wouldn't Die.
Right.
You know what I mean? Fucking
Yeah.
put it out. What kind of a fucking revolution started from there?
Absolutely.
Same way with The Nightmare on Elm Street. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Same way with Friday the 13th. Same way with The Burning. Those early movies, not being too dissimilar, but not being like too like far-fetched. Michael Myers, you know, setting the slasher, just one dude, relentless, fucking scaring the shit out of you. You
Right.
know? And you can't really do a lot better than those. I think when it comes down to it, and in Rosemary's Baby, you can see those progressions hit.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of movies, depends on when you watch a movie, right? Like, I'm not saying about how old you are or anything like that, but like time of day,
Yeah.
who you're around. Like, I remember watching Rosemary's Baby for the first time on a video in my living room by myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just in it.
Yeah.
If there's 3 or 4 of your buddies around and you're all fucking cracking wise and
Yeah.
smoking left-handed cigarettes, it's a different story, right?
Yeah.
So I think another reason that I like this movie so much is I did get to see it like twice on a big screen in Cuba, outdoor atrium.
Yeah.
So it was like seeing it in the theater,
Yeah.
you know, so it was super cool, but outdoors and
Yeah.
like a drive-in, but you're
Be the
not
shit.
driving.
Yeah. I remember most of the places I've seen movies.
Yeah.
I remember the theaters I've gone to see them, you know, and the events that I've seen them at. Because, again, to me, a movie is an experience. And if you're going to a theater, you remember
Sure.
the fucking theater.
Well,
you
and that was in
remember everything.
Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So
Yeah,
like-
that was a little bit different too. But, you know,
I remember every movie I watched there. Surviving the Game 3 times.
that was a fucking trading places for fucking Gary Busey.
Right. Anyways.
Yeah.
That's
Anyways.
not the movie I was talking about.
No, anyway, yeah.
So on to your number 3. Number 3.
This is
Number
gonna.
three.
This is not a surprise either because it is a very. It's the fucking best. I can't really. I mean, it's there. It's my third,
Okay.
but it's The Thing from 1980.
So I'm just going to stop you there because that's also my third.
Ah, sweet. Yes. So we could talk about
So
it. Yeah.
this was, I set the sci-fi parameter and then immediately broke it because I was like, this would be probably in my top 10 movies of all time.
Yes.
It's definitely going to be in my top 5 horror movies of all time.
Exactly. It was so hard to place it in the right order, but it's
sure.
needed. It needed to be there. That's why it wasn't like an alternate on 5. You know,
Right.
It was like this is a definite.
Yeah.
It's the penultimate fucking horror, sci-fi, everything movie, and
Yeah.
it changed everything to me when I saw it, when I understood it.
Well, I think the balance, what makes this such a great horror movie is you have awesome, like, body horror style creatures, right? That, I mean, are truly scary and disgusting, right?
Yeah.
Like from the moment that dog rips in half and starts fucking, you know, yeah, you're like, holy shit. But that's not where it stops. The other side of the horror is it can be anybody.
Yeah,
And that takes it to a whole different level. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
Right.
sort of.
yeah,
But this creature makes all kinds of weird, wacky creatures out of
yeah.
people.
He's replicating the
Yeah.
shit just like they were.
Yeah, but
not-
different.
yeah, but instantly. Too.
Yeah. No pods involved.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Another thing that for this movie, for me, one of the very first like Carpenter movies that I saw, things like that, it was like, holy shit, these people look legitimate.
It felt real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, McCready, fucking the shit. You're like, oh, okay, they're like G.I. Joes, you know. So it was at the right time when everything kind of came out,
Sure.
you know, and hit video, and video just kind of had that good way of not reissuing shit, but having that always on hand.
Yeah,
so you
absolutely.
could always go watch the old classics. And this was one that was you would hardly ever see. It was one that I hardly ever saw on cable or anything like that, which is awesome because, you know, not showing it on TV doesn't fucking overdo it. You know, like Halloween.
Agreed.
You know, I love Halloween.
Sure.
Would have loved to put Halloween on my list, but I'm like, you know, it's like.
So actually, that's funny because I was thinking about Halloween as well, and it definitely made it in my honorable mentions. But then I started, I'm like, that's not even my favorite John Carpenter movie.
Right.
That's not my favorite John Carpenter horror movie.
Well, yeah. One thing that I was thinking to myself the other night, watching Christine, why the fuck didn't Stephen King and him do more movies?
Oh, they should have. Christine was a great movie, dude.
It is great from beginning. Shitters. Fuck, dude. He goes fucking nuts. Artie, that character is fucking crazy. I don't know. It's just, it was such a great movie. Like Maximum Overdrive. I love it. Stephen King hates it, but I love it.
Sure, I love it for what it is.
Yes.
Not for a Stephen King anything.
Exactly.
Just that it was a cool movie.
It was his only movie to direct, and he said he was on coke the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't care. It was a fucking rad movie.
Exactly.
Come on. They had a little bitty buggy that was like, you can't do this.
I think something Stephen King's stories lend to, and something that Carpenter picked up on, and that we've seen a couple times, like in the It movies, things like that, is that there's a realism to the character and their motivations, generally. What he takes is whatever that darker piece is, and he just amps it up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like you think of movies like, I can't think of the name of the movie. The one that's based off The Body.
Marijuana makes you forget.
There's no marijuana here, kid.
There is for me.
The movie based off The Body with Will Wheaton and all those kids going to
Oh, yeah. Stand By Me.
Stand By Me. Yeah. So like that, like they built in like just the characterizations, like you've seen those archetypes of people.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when a director does it right and they tie all that in together, you get a good movie. And when they don't, like you get The Lawnmower Man or whatever, which had nothing to do with any story that Stephen King ever wrote. But you know what I'm saying.
Didn't that one have Jeff Fahey in it?
Are you talking about one or two?
Two. Jeff Fahey.
But anyways.
Well, I
but
mean,
yeah, The Thing.
This movie didn't spawn a franchise. It didn't fucking like. It was shit when it came out. Fucking shit on forever.
Poorly marketed.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, people like
Because this came out the same year as E.T.
Yeah,
that was the problem.
Well, and they didn't. Yeah, you can listen to our archived episode.
That's
it's
right.
Actually, really polished. So,
check that out in the archives.
Yeah, way back when. But it was like, I don't know. It was something that was very seldom seen for me. I didn't have a lot of access to it, but it was still fucking cool as shit. It was just every time I watched it, bless you.
I know
it's coming up, but it was just like it was a treat, like watching The Stand all in one day.
Yeah,
that was like, yes, I'm gonna wake up at 11 and I'm gonna watch this movie until fucking 10:30.
That's right.
Just smoke cigarettes all day. It's fucking the shit. But yeah. I mean, this was the Thing. If you call it a remake, greatest of all time, fucking.
Well, I think so. We mentioned a movie earlier that, again, I think ties back to this movie, Fallen.
Yeah,
it's very much like The Thing.
Yeah,
only with biblical anatones. Yeah, or whatever.
Yeah, got John Goodman in it.
Yeah, of course.
Pretty good movie.
But again, I don't think you have that movie without this movie. It's the same premise,
right?
To some degree, right?
Right.
Something inspired that guy, whether he knows or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. It's like the Battle Royale and the Hunger Games lady.
Yeah. It's like, this is weird.
Yeah, don't fucking deny, bitch. You seen that shit. Anyways, but yeah, and I think this movie has done that again. It did the practical effects so well that made the physical part of it scary and gross and cool.
Yeah.
But it did the psychological part of it better than I think most any movie since then, right? That would come out and try to be like that.
Yeah. Showing the essential parts where people break down.
Right.
You know?
And when you watch it again, you're like, oh, that's where.
Yeah. Every time you look at it too, you're like, you're looking at a different way to figure other things out.
And then the ambiguous ending. Mm-hmm. You don't know there's two people left. And you don't know if one of them's the creature or if any of them are the creature. Yeah. Who knows?
And then there's like fan theories that you could put in there. You know,
like the lights in the eyes.
Yeah, he was drinking gasoline.
Yeah,
but he really wasn't drinking. And he's like, but no.
Yeah, there's all kinds of theories.
Maybe he was. Yeah, maybe he was just cocky because he was like, yep. I'm the thing now. You know. So, but yeah, this movie just. At the cast again too, the environment,
the way I think one of the things, and I'm not going to get too far in this because we have done this episode, but is again the way it was filmed, like in an isolated location. They almost died on the way getting there. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there was no leaving and coming home, and you were part of this group, so I think that made it more believable.
Yes.
You know, it was more grounded.
Yeah. And a lot of the movies that are on my list are kind of like that, you know, because they are the ones that see the passion in whoever the creator of it is or whatever it is that sparks them to be like, fucking A. And they really go for it, you know. It's like, it's time to prove myself, you know. Right. And that's a movie right there that took 20 years for everybody to be like, oh, that's badass.
Holy shit.
Except
did you guys see this?
Yeah. Except for everybody that watched it.
I remember having there was a Dreamcast thing game.
Yes.
I remember having that. It was really hard.
It was like the Dragon's Lair
on that thing, and you go, well, it wasn't like Dragon's Lair, but it was Dreamcast. So
I'm just saying the level of hardness.
Oh well, yeah. Well, I think that because it was Dreamcast, like everything almost on Dreamcast, the mechanics were really hard to figure out. But I digress.
Right. Right.
So I think that moves us to your number 3 or 2 because we both tied on 3 with the same movie, which was interesting that we both had it ranked number 3.
I know. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 2 is kind of like, I don't know. It is very, very, very close to my heart.
Okay.
I love this movie. It's Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason Lives.
1986?
Think so. 87?
86 because it was on your Battle of the
There you go. It was 80s. My number 1.
Yeah.
It was the first one I saw in the theater.
Check that one out in the archives, kids.
It was the first one I saw in the theater.
Okay.
So you gotta think that I was probably 3 years into my addiction of watching already fucking horror movies, right?
Sure.
Yeah, my uncle took me to it. Fucking the shit. I remember seeing the preview for it, and the preview was like fucking tombstone shatters with the line in. You're like, no. There's no way I was getting in by myself. You know what I mean? There's like, I'm young.
Sure.
Loved it. Every once in a while, like I'd hang out with like an uncle or, you know, the aunts, kind of like you did back in the day, right? You go spend a couple of weeks with grandpa or something. I don't know. But whenever did something like that, it was always, that movie was kind of like, I don't know, that was something that ties me to that part of my life.
Sure.
You know, and Jason was my fucking hero. For real. Right. Like, I didn't model myself after.
Well, of course.
I'm like, you know what?
Revenge for mommy.
Yeah, I think that's going to be my life.
I'm going to live out in the woods.
I'm going to poke my own eye out. And fucking, like, get really buff eating nuts. You know, fucking chopping heads, snapping necks, and cashing checks. No, but like I would sit in class and draw. It was when my imagination was just like, it was firing. Felt so good to have this creative part and to be able to know that you could be creative like that. I didn't get it at the time. It was just like, that's what I craved.
Sure.
And this movie right here just kind of hits everything. This is the only one that doesn't have nudity.
Right.
But it's the one for me that was like, holy shit.
What?
That was fun. It had more action
Okay.
in it, but it brought everything like, I
I was going to
know.
ask what separated it from the other Friday the 13th movies.
Well, the first one, right? You watch the first one, classic, awesome.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of things that could have been different, but it was ultimate, you know, even though The Burning came out first.
Sure.
But still, you know what I mean? And it wasn't even him.
Right.
There was no Jason.
No, not until
then,
2.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was something that immediately drew me to those movies, because it was like, you can do that? It was just something clicking in my brain with
Sure.
that, with the way that it was working. So I understood it. And once I understood it, I was like, holy shit.
And in 2, we still didn't have hockey mask Jason. We just had Baghead. Right?
Yeah, he had Baghead. And
He had a
then,
burlap sack on his head.
yeah.
Shouldn't just say Baghead. People will be like, what are you talking about? Like
Yeah,
Baghead Spider-Man?
Yeah. Well, and then he gets his fucking mask from Shelley.
Yeah.
The worst character in all of the fucking movies, man. But then I had been watching 3, 4, and 5
Okay.
religiously at that point too, whenever this one came out. So, because my dad had one tape, I still have it now too.
Nice.
Actually got it. It's got all those Friday the 13th in a row, and I think they're in reverse order too. So it was like
Ooh.
3, 5, and 4. So I don't give a fuck,
Yeah, right.
right? Like, it just, I don't know. It was something that grabbed my imagination. I knew it wasn't real. I'm not going to go out there and act it out.
Sure, of course.
You know, it was like, and none of my friends could watch scary movies, so I didn't have anything in common with them. But yet, I would still know, even at that point too. I remember spouting off directors and shit, and they're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "For real?
Oh, no.
You don't know who that is? You know, it's got this dude in it, and this dude was in this." I was making connections in movies.
Sure.
So it was like learning how to play something. That's what was happening at that
Yeah.
time. And like this movie it was the catalyst that just springboarded my love for movies and horror movies and anything that had to do with that right there.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, and from this movie, I've kind of evolved into who I am, to where now I'm listening for the sounds and listening how the sound makes movies. And I feel like everything came from this movie.
It's fair.
It's number 2. I could put it at number 1, but there's no way I'm going to do that. But Friday the 13th, Jason Lives got fucking cool lines wherever the red dot goes. And I had not even, at this point too, I had never seen The Return of the Living Deads.
Okay.
You know, so Tom Matthews or whatnot, right, is in it. So like, he was the one character that seemed legitimate, you know.
Right.
From then on out, though, I had seen all of the Friday the 13th all the way up to the 2008 one in the theaters.
Okay.
So I saw 6, 7, 8, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X.
Was 8 Takes Manhattan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
so.
where I kind of was like, okay, what the fuck?
That's where I ended it too. But I really did.
I mean, I've gone back and watched, you
Yeah.
know.
I saw every one of them in the theater and just kind of like grew up with it. And that was another part that made me like Scream a lot.
Sure.
Just really kind of having this deal and kind of wanting to see somebody do it like extra special, because it was a special thing.
Sure.
I'm not going to say love letter. Fuck that shit. It wasn't a love letter to horror. I don't give a fuck. No.
I think that I pretty much, for quite a while, as a younger person, would try to go to every horror movie I could in the theater.
Yep.
Like, I remember seeing some of the Nightmare on Elm Streets. You know, the franchise stuff, Halloween's, you know, what was the weird ones? Like anything that would come out, the first Power with Lou Diamond Phillips. You know what I mean? Like anything.
And
like
they
if
were
there's
shitty,
like,
too.
let's go watch this.
Those were major productions and they were shit as
Oh,
fuck.
yeah, yeah.
And it was just like,
But I equate the Jason movies like in there. You know what I mean? Like the Jason Michael Myers movies. Like the first Halloween, don't get me wrong, rises well above all of those other ones.
Right.
But one of the things I really liked when I first started watching the Jason movies, it was like, I say the Friday the 13th, whatever. Because the first one's not about Jason, I know. Was it almost seemed like there was always something out that like me and my friends or my brother and sister could watch that was kind of new. You know what I mean?
Oh,
of these
okay.
horror movies. It was just in that 80s time when
It was coming
they were
out,
just
yeah.
rolling. Like if you didn't get this, you got that. If you didn't get this, you got that.
Especially at the theaters too. You had more of a selection. It wasn't
Yeah.
8 movie theaters with the same fucking Transformers movie on it, you know, and like 4 theaters with the Scorsese movie on it, and then you got one that's playing like maybe an old one from last week, and it's the Taylor Swift fucking show, you know. So
Sure.
the movies haven't been. They should be that event, and this is the kind of movie that's was an event for me. I wish I could see it again in the theater whenever it comes back. I'm gonna be all fucking over it. It's just really cool to have that experience, to see something like that. Friday the 13th. They're in that weird lexicon, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just in this weird. I don't know. It's a weird step for it at that time, and then you get all the way to Wishmaster.
Yeah.
Once you get to Wishmaster, everything stopped. That
Sure.
should have been it. And for me, that's as much as I paid attention to at that point. It was like,
Yep.
and I stopped. And then Scream came out.
Oh, by that, yeah.
Yeah. Because whenever Wishmaster came out, it was like, oh shit, Kane Hodder, fucking, you got to see everybody.
Yeah.
You got to see all your heroes. You know, wasn't Brad Dourif in it?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't remember. This was after Hellraiser, the Hellraiser 3 debacle. Everything.
You know, I was actually just thinking about that because just kind of the time period we're talking about, and Hellraiser wasn't in my top 5.
Yeah.
But Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2 are such completely different movies.
Yeah.
Hellraiser 1 was fucking just gross.
Yeah. Disgusting. Like
You
The
know?
Fly.
Yeah, like the Brindle Fly. Yeah,
it wasn't scary.
Yeah.
It was just gross.
right, right.
Ugh.
So that was your number 2, right?
Yeah, my number 2 is Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason Lives.
I alluded to this movie way earlier at the start of this. My number 2 is The Exorcist, and it's the first Exorcist. There are movies within here, like the only one that I consider a real franchise movie was my first one, which was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Because The Exorcist, in my opinion, stands alone, doesn't need any extra bullshit.
Right.
This movie scared the shit out of me as a kid. As I've already alluded to, I'm not going through all that again. It's done really well.
Yeah.
And it's still scary today.
Yep.
Like for people who have not seen that, I have sat with my friends that have not seen this movie and they go watch and they're like, what the fuck are you making me watch?
Right.
it,
And it seems tame
it
compared
does compared to a lot of things now, but
to like street trash. Exorcist to street trash. How did we get there? I don't know.
But again, when this movie came out, people left the theater. There'd been nothing like this in the theater, right? I remember watching this at 7.
Yeah.
8, you know,
Yeah.
like maybe, but
Being
I'm pretty sure it
young,
was, super
really,
young.
yeah.
And again, just being scared. But again, it's not just a big scary monster.
Right.
Now the main character has no control over their body. This demon is controlling their body.
Yeah.
There's religion tied in. So again, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's back to the tones we were talking about
Right.
earlier. And I think that,
The dream sequences.
yeah,
And the fucking
for sure.
just the turn, the expansive, just it was a huge movie, and not just for ticket sales or anything. It just feels like it's a huge full movie.
Absolutely. And even the way it ends is,
Yeah,
you're like, everything's just dark.
everything hits everywhere.
There's not a moment of reprieve like once the turn happens.
Right.
You know,
It just keeps going,
Yeah.
which is I guess that's basic movie making, is to get them in, the first act, second act, build upon, boom, drop it.
well, I think again, so the thing that from a young age, there's one thing to have a creature attacking you or a person, right?
Right.
Something I can physically see. And I can try to evade or run or whatever, trip and fall. And that's Jason's secret power, by the way.
Yeah. He walks fast.
Well, he walks really slow and telekinetically trips people.
He has the power of
Tripping.
not flight.
No, but you know what I mean. So this wasn't something that you could see, kind of like The Thing.
Yeah,
like
right,
you got
right,
to
right.
see The Thing. Don't get me wrong, and had that cool part of it, but it was very similar to that.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that that's kind of just a theme for me in the kind of horror movies I like. Which, with my number one here in just a minute, I'm probably going to break. So
No, but yeah, it's a great fucking movie, man. Great movie.
so
My number one.
Brock's number one.
This is not a surprise. Again, ding ding.
I bet it ends with The Dead.
Yeah, it is Dawn of the Dead. It is fucking Dawn of the Dead.
Fair.
The first impression of this movie, my dad had told me about it, and I had never seen it before. So I'd seen Night of the Living Dead, right? Probably, oh shit, it was in the 80s. It was even before Up All Night was on. There was a couple of months or maybe even a year that they played the same thing at midnight every fucking Saturday. So every Saturday night at midnight, they would show Night of the Living Dead.
Sure.
So it was the midnight movie at that time. Commercials, you had this weird fucking cow and stuff. I figured it out what it was, but now I don't remember. But but that was my first foray into an older movie, for one, but for two, you know, it was just kind of like, this is something new. These are zombies. Who knows about zombies? Nobody? Yeah, you're my favorite. You know what I mean? It was
Sure.
like, for me, that was like, oh, yes. It was my G.I. Joe code name, you know?
That's
It was
right.
Dawn of the Dead. But I had never seen anything like Night, you know?
Sure.
And that brought me, you know, to Mad Max, different things like that, you know? But Night, it just really grabbed a hold. And I remember just talking about it. And my dad's like, oh, yeah, you should see Dawn of the Dead. And I'm like, what? What is that? And I had just gotten, like, I think I got a stereo, and I had a Door CD. So it was the greatest hits. It was the one, it was a 2-disc one.
So it was like early 90s?
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
around there, yeah. And so I rented it. I found it.
Your Jim Morrison was Val Kilmer?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I can't tell the difference. but no, we were. I had dreams because I would let my stereo play all night. Right, I'd always listen to music at night.
Sure.
I don't know why I did that as a kid. I just did. You know, I liked I guess it was kind of white noise to me, but I would have these dreams because I was thinking about Dawn of the Dead, and I still hadn't seen it yet. So there was something in me that was telling me, you have to see this fucking movie, right? So go, 95, 96. I think it was when one of the Anchor Bay releases came out.
Okay.
And it was a 2-tape set. My tape had the first part of the movie up until they were driving the Sirocco around the mall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you went to tape 2 and you watched the rest, right?
Okay.
Which is weird. And then it had trailers and everything like that after it, like 12 of them. It was fucking great, right? So we bought it at like a Hastings, and I had never seen it at that point too, because he told me about it, and just all that time, and just never, you know, I had seen Day of the Dead before, but never seen Dawn because it was the older one.
Sure.
So, you know, of course, even at that point, it was like, I don't want to watch nothing like that. Even though I had seen Basket Case, you know what I mean? But so what I have it in that 2-tape set. Get over to my grandparents' house in this little town in Texas, Perryton, and I'm like, hey, because my cousin lived there, and I was like, hey, can I borrow your VCR? I want to watch these trailers, right? Because I don't want to watch the movie. So it started, and right in the middle, I was like, God damn, how long are trailers? Because I had no idea. This was my first jump into something that was like a anniversary special edition type. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was something that I was just like, what the fuck, right? It starts here. So then, yeah. But now that same tape set does, it has the whole movie on one now.
Ah, gotcha.
So that first one confused the fuck out of me, but I was enamored.
Right.
I think I rewound everything again, put in tape 1, watch it all the way through, go again, fucking just, it was everywhere. I was fucking drawing Dawn of the Dead things, you know. I mean, fucking that was something I wanted to identify with that movie, just in the way that it spoke to me in a weird fucking way, in the way that I knew that it wasn't all about horror.
Right.
And I knew that it was special because of where they were at, who they were, and what was going on. So to me, those movies like that, even back then, like Mad Max, Beyond Thunderdome, shit like that, right? You were used to these dystopian futures. But Dawn had this essence of sophistication in a way to me because of the characters.
Okay.
And it was like they were real. And a lot goes into something like that. You get the cast. David Emge, right? I wrote them down because they're worth mentioning. He was Steven. He was Flyboy, right? Mm-hmm. He never really did a lot of shit. But that's another thing that I really like about this movie is these guys, besides Ken Foree. Ken Foree's on it. I mean, Keenan and Kel. And shit, you know, but Fran, like Galen Ross, she hardly in anything, you know. Scott Reiniger, he was in a lot of shit, but he's got a really interesting credit. He was on Falcon Crest. Yes.
Score.
So that even makes it cooler for me. But these unknown people that look like they were truly friends, you know, Peter and Roger, right?
Right.
It was like they were friends. It seemed natural. The music was kind of like doodle-doo-doo, doodle-doo-doo-doo. I don't know. It just everything about the movie was special, and I knew it, and I just could not take my eyes off of it. First time I went to go record music with somebody else, right? The whole band, except for the drummer, went to fucking this little bitty podunk town, of course. It's people's hometown, so I'm not going to talk shit. It was really small. We got invited, and so I was like, hey, let's fucking watch this movie. I brought this movie specifically so we could watch it while we were recording this record, you know? And of course, put it on. They were like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But those moments, that was another moment in my life. But this movie has been there for me. It has opened my mind more, of course. It has, in what I've learned from the movie, it's a movie, but it's like, it's my favorite fucking movie. You know what I mean? It's everything about it. I love the fucking artwork. I love the shots, as basic as you think they look, as fast and rush and as fast cuts that Romero does and shit. And then you got a good 45 minutes of hardly nothing. You know? You get that fucking craziness at the beginning.
Right.
So you're hooked. And then you get to, you know, Captain Rhodes shows up.
Right.
So, caught your pals here stealing company gas. Not my friends. You know, I mean, you get the dude with the fucking one leg, the Puerto Rican guy, and he's like, when the dead walk, senores. There's so many fucking great lines.
Sure.
You know? Everything about the movie. And then whenever I got a little bit older, I paid attention more to the cultural aspect that he was really pointing out, the consumerism, the kill you. You get it all. What do you really got?
That's right.
And it really, like, that was a resonator for me too, to keep going. And it's like this movie has grown with me, and I can watch it. I could watch it on Endless Play. I could watch it tonight on Endless Play. But this one right here, anywhere where it's at, I'm just like, this is beautiful.
I don't think that I appreciated Dawn of the Dead until I was older.
Yeah.
Like as a youth, I thought zombies were dumb. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid. I've already seen all these other movies that are fucking scary as shit. And you want me to be scared of these slow walking dead dudes? Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
And that's just kid, right?
Yeah.
I think as I got older, being able to understand like cinematically what's going on, thematically, like you mentioned, and really understanding that I appreciate it a lot more. I was never a zombie guy as a kid, like
Right.
teenager, any of that. The zombies I like. Don't get me wrong.
That was me.
I liked
Yeah.
the Deadites.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like they were different.
Yeah.
Zombies never really scared me or I don't know. I was just like my favorite zombie movie was 28 Days Later, and that's not even a zombie movie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
like I was
right.
like, that's scary. Those motherfuckers.
Yeah.
That's fucking scary.
When
shit.
I went and saw that one, because they were like, "Oh, it's a fucking zombie movie," and I went and saw it, I was like,
That's not a zombie.
not a zombie.
but again, I think that
I want my money back.
I think that I appreciate it more again as an adult. Like when I got into it probably took me until my mid-20s to really appreciate that movie. So yeah.
Well, it was on Endless Play for about, I don't know, 5 years for me. Honestly,
Fair,
for real,
fair.
like over and over again. Got DVD player, got the DVD. You know, oh, new release, got it again. You know,
Sure.
oh wait, had to get this new one.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is just sometimes I can have it on repeat, and I'm like, fucking love this shit.
Well, and I could see why. Like I said, I mean, I appreciate it now, but as a kid, it was just too. I don't even know how to explain it. It was too slow.
Yeah,
It was. That's it. I guess
what
it was just like.
that's
what?
there's certain movies in my life that have changed the way I look at movies, and this was one of them.
Sure.
The
This
other
is Friday
one,
the 13th, Part 6. I know.
no, well, yeah, and that one too. But there's another one too. Is Gary Cooper, you know, playing Lou Gehrig in the Lou Gehrig story.
Yeah.
I was watching that as a 9-10-year-old, something like that, and
Sure.
being like, God damn, this is great. And all my friends being like, what the fuck are you watching this old movie
I
for?
was like that with The Elephant Man.
Yeah, man.
And Harvey. Harvey
Yeah.
is one of my favorite movies,
Yeah.
which come to find out is very unintentionally scary to some people.
Anyway,
I just
yeah.
enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But like I have movies like that.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I totally see where you're coming from.
That's my Don. Don is like the shit. Don
Nice.
is it. If there's anything that ever comes out, the closest, you know, would be Friday the 13th or would be fucking Mandy. You know what
Sure.
I mean? Those come close.
Sure. I knew Dawn of the Dead was going to be your number one because
Yeah.
I've met you before. And I think it's cool that we're doing this. We're filming this or We're recording this on
Hi, people.
a day when we're going to go see Dawn of the Dead in the theater tonight.
45th anniversary.
Let's go.
That's crazy.
So I'll spin to my number one real quick. For all my talk about like the psychological portion of horror, which this does have some, and having something beyond just a single killer, you know, like something physical coming
more,
at you.
More depth, yeah.
This movie is all about physicality, in my opinion. And that is, and this was one of those movies that expanded horror for me when I saw it. It's a little Tobe Hooper film called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Gonzo.
And this blew my mind when I watched it as a kid.
Yep.
One, like, you lead in and this is a true story. Like,
Right.
that's how it's coming at you.
Right.
And I'm a kid. I'm like, oh, it's a true story. It said it is a true story.
Yeah, like we were talking about at Andromeda Street.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, this fucking shit, people are dying. And the fact that, like, they flesh out, I don't even know how to explain it. The characterization's done good.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
But, like, the fact that there's this family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
It's something new for you.
yeah. Like,
That
then-
idea.
Well, and you think, like people loved House of a Thousand Corpses, all these things. None of those would have been movies without this.
Right. No.
You're never going to have those wrong turn movies without this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. 100%.
And it's done.
Yeah.
It's filmed so well and so dripped in just grisly reality
Right.
that you're like,
It's visceral.
yes.
Would you say?
Yes.
I mean,
Visceral is a
it's
great word for it.
It's
Yeah.
a visceral experience. too.
Absolutely.
And their use of sound on that one was really good too.
Agreed.
Especially when it counted.
Well, and again, this is, I don't know when I watched this movie, but it was probably right in that early, mid 80s heyday of watching horror movies when I was a kid, right?
Yeah, Child's Play and shit.
Yeah, like, I'm 10 or whatever. So I think what really did it for me was that it was something that was so much more grounded in reality than the things that scared me before.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense?
No,
it was
no.
the first time where I felt like when I watched Jason or I watched Halloween, I was never afraid of Michael or afraid of Jason.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, it's going to happen.
They're
cool.
boogeymen,
Yeah. They are what they are.
They're fun.
And people are going to die in cool and interesting ways.
Right,
You know?
right.
And I'm probably going to see some boobies.
Yeah.
But with this, it was like the being chained up, and like, this is the first time you ever saw somebody kill somebody with a power tool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it happened to be a chainsaw.
Whenever he hits the dude over the head, when he first opens that door, like, yep. You're like, oh shit.
Yep.
And then you see the dude's leg.
Yeah.
When the dude, his leg, the way it shakes,
yeah.
just kind of like on part 2, whenever Home Dude was shaking, like,
Okay, part 2 is like one of my favoriteest all-time movies for way other reasons than that.
But
because 2 didn't really scare me.
no, it was the
2
real,
was like, this is the most gonzo shit I've ever seen in my life. I love it.
yeah. It was the first one really does it, like you said, it was gritty.
Yeah, it was
You
like
see
real.
that looked natural, and you're like, damn, it's a different film stock.
Yeah.
It's a different. You're seeing it through the lens of a real director, and everybody that directed a horror movie is a real director, but somebody that looked like very fucking serious. It looks really good.
Yeah.
I mean, everything you look at, you're like, damn.
Yeah, there was no like, oh, that's spaghetti blood, or you know what I mean? Like, none of that weird shit.
This is disgusting.
This is fucking, like you said, visceral. And I think that, again, not only movies like The Family, like we were just talking about, those movies, but also movies like Saw, Hostel, things like that wouldn't have happened. Because I think a lot of that came out of this too.
Right.
And it was a different kind of psychological horror. Because it's like shit you never would have thought you would have saw.
Yeah.
Right?
Somebody's just coming up with these ideas to kill people.
Right.
And writing them down.
Yeah.
Making movies about them.
Exactly.
Like, goddamn, that dude's trouble.
Keep an eye on that motherfucker.
James Wan, I'm looking at you. No, but I could see Texas Chainsaw Massacre was another one of those pivot points too. But it wasn't culturally connected.
No.
In the way, unless you were a fan of horror movies, that was one of them that you would see. Now, I know you got a lot of honorable mentions and everything, but we're not done talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But there's so many movies, that you can look at certain aspects and you can be like, that's where that came from. If you want to find those connective tissues, right?
Right.
Just like with music, you listen to something and you trace it and you're like, oh, I like the way that, they do their thing and they're influenced by who? Boom. Listen to that. They were influenced by who? Whoa.
Well, and I think when you those are the first, like, so Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like, came out in 1974, right? So it had already been a thing. It just hadn't been a thing for me yet, right?
Yeah.
So I think when you see something like that early on, it's good because then when you watch those movies that come after, you can see the influence.
Right.
This isn't some obscure thing that you just made up. You're pulling from this. And that's okay. I'm not saying that's a problem. We wouldn't have had a lot of good movies if it wasn't for some of these movies that you and I have talked about today.
Tobe Hooper.
Yeah.
The director. Fantastic director.
Absolutely.
Shoestring, nothing budget, right? Fucking makes this movie that is outrageous, but yet highly sought after. I think it was loved.
This is the one that it's so weird because they give you like a range for the budget. It's like $80,000 to $140,000.
Nobody really knows what it is.
But it made $30 million.
Yeah. And continues to spawn franchises.
Absolutely. Even continues to spawn Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. Ken Foree was in one of those.
That's right.
He was in part 3. There's just... Tobe Hooper was such a great director and a great eye that somebody like Spielberg's like, hey, I'm not good at horror like this, so here's Poltergeist.
Yeah.
And you're like, fucking A. That's what a horror director can do with great money.
That's right.
And at the time, it was like, why the fuck not? You know? And then it was like, what was next for him? It was like, was it Invaders from Mars?
Oh, yeah.
Fucking great movie.
For sure.
Wonderfully shot. Looked so fucking great. I mean, everything about it, it was cheesy. It was a 50s movie, you know? I was a teenage zombie movie, you know? It's fucking great.
I was a teenage alien zombie.
I mean, he's another one of those that didn't really have a prolific career, but did some of the greatest things that you'd ever see.
Absolutely.
You know?
I would debate I think he had a pretty prolific career.
Yeah,
he's made some really good stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
He's consistent.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The
that's
consistent
fair.
ones, yeah. The consistent directors, I guess that's the best way to look at it. The consistent ones. But until you get to Diary of the Dead. Sorry, dude.
No.
Cool idea. I mean, I love it, but there's a lot left in the tank.
Sure.
And I think there's a lot of life left in, the Dead series as a whole.
Well, and I think that, like we saw such a huge renaissance with Walking Dead, of course.
Right.
Which a lot of people, you included, think is in the Romero-verse.
Yeah.
And very well could be.
No. They show up on the TV show. Nicotero would put Sweater Zombie in there or some shit.
Sure.
Or Bub. You're like, holy shit, that's fucking, I know that one. You know what I mean? So I know that guy. Hi.
But yeah, I would say this movie is probably number one because, again, it was just so visceral and it was...
It's killer.
Watched it at a time when I was like, holy shit, And again, pitched as being real. That's part of it too. Kind of like... like the Blair Witch was scarier when people thought it was real.
Yeah.
And then because the Learning Channel and Discovery were putting on shows saying that it was fucking real, And so that was great marketing is all I'm saying,
They had the success with that movie that the one movie where they did that in the 70s, what was it? Not Green Inferno, but the fucking one about the cannibal tribe. What the fuck?
Not Hills.
No, not Hills Have Eyes. Hills Have Eyes is close.
Yeah.
But it's...
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Not What's Behind the Green Door. That's a porn thing. Green River Killer? Yeah.
Okay. Shit.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah, this is great audio. Sorry, guys.
Anyway, that movie, the director decided, hey, guess what? You guys aren't going to be seen anywhere for the next 6 months. And it's in your contract. And they're like, what the fuck? So he hit him and they thought it was real. They tried to bring him up on charges and shit, because of the graphic nature of the fucking movie.
Sure.
Very few people ever cross a boundary. But when they do, you end up with shit like Puppet Master. Fucking loved them.
Yeah.
They were great.
Sure.
But
what they were.
Yeah, but it was a fucking puppet with a knife. Drill head,
Leech lady or whatever.
Full Moon Features were like, that was my shit. That was my
Doll
jam.
Man versus Dangerous Toys.
Yes.
Or Demonic Toys.
Yeah, yes.
Dangerous Toys was a shitty band from the 80s.
Yeah. I always get them mixed up too. But I have a lot of fucking alternates.
Yeah, we can just talk about some if you'd like.
Shining, of course.
Well, before we do that, let's wrap up our top 5. So
Yes.
go through your top 5 real quick.
My top
Just to
5,
recap.
there was a lot of shit.
Yeah.
There was a lot of different ones in there.
Well, your top 8, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever
Day
you-
of the Dead, Tremors, Bride of Frankenstein, and Night of the Comet was my number 5.
Nice.
Number 4 was Mandy for me. Number 3 was The Thing. 2, Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, and Dawn of the Dead.
Nice.
1978, number 1, with a bullet.
My top 5 were in reverse order. Number 5, Nightmare on Elm Street, the original. Rosemary's Baby was my number 4. We both had The Thing as our third. The Exorcist was my number 2, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974 was my number 1.
Number 1.
So let's get into some of these honorable mentions. We've mentioned a few throughout the show, but we'll just wrap up with a few.
The Shining.
I know, and it's hard to keep that off of a list.
You can't really put it on a list because it's going to be, there's 2 camps. There's a horror camp and then there's the Kubrick camp.
Yeah.
But putting them both together, you're like, that fucking makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is going to be up there somewhere.
For sure.
It's definitely going to be in a top 100.
This would definitely be in my top 10
Yeah.
of all time horror movies.
Right. The Frighteners. Do you remember The Frighteners?
Of course I do.
Fucking love that movie. That movie, when it came out, was awesome. You hear it? It'll drown out. But no, when The Frighteners came out, it was before. It was. I had seen Dead Alive at this point.
Okay.
Whenever that one came out, I never saw Bad Taste or anything like that, but I saw Dead Alive for the first time. And
Dead Alive, the movie with like 4 names.
Yeah. Excruciating pain, fucking something or but it was, Peter Jackson made this really funky horror movie, but he had legitimate Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
That was one of the coolest fucking roles he ever did,
and that was
so
like
crazy.
height of Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, that was after the TV show. I think it had disappeared for like a year, maybe 2.
Couple, yeah.
And then came back and did this movie. And then Peter Jackson goes on to do Lord of the Rings.
King Kong.
The King Dong, the movie. That was it was a great movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, then you get a Busey. Anything with a Busey in it, it's kind of scary. Makes sense.
Busey's kind of scary all on his own.
Well, Phantasm.
Yeah, you got to put Phantasm on there.
Phantasm, Psycho.
Sure.
Alien, like we talked about.
Which do you like better, Psycho or Psycho 2?
Psycho 1.
Okay.
Because he's so wholesome.
Okay.
It's like but you could tell he's shifty.
Yeah.
Just the way Anthony Perkins does this shit.
He does a great job, and I think that one builds tension really well. I think I might like 2 better. Like I say recently, like within the last few months, watched it again. I want to watch the first one again. Yeah. So that I can like just compare. But like, there's something into like you get a little deeper into his head. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. I remember it really. The last time I saw it too was about like 6 months ago or something.
Oh wow!
Like it was probably on Tubi or something. But yeah, I was like, let's watch that one. And it was just a continuation.
Yeah.
Made sense where they continued it. Had the same kind of feel to it, but it was just like you said. It was a little bit different. You got to see more.
Yeah.
It was like basket case number 2.
Was it though? No.
There was more to that one. I really like all the Henenlotter movies for what they are and how disgusting and depraved.
Sure.
It's more over the top than anything. I don't know. They're just so gross, but yet in some weird way. I don't know. When Belial is humping the one other fucking Belial creature that was legs and it was a woman's face with legs,
right?
And they're fucking.
Yeah, 100%.
You're just, oh my god, that's disgusting. Like what the? He's gonna come back to it. Brain damage.
Yeah.
Oh, what a freaking movie, dude. There's, like I said, there's certain shots that could be widened out, shown, so you don't feel so like fucking insular. But that's what works with them.
Yeah,
I don't know. I love them. What about Night of the Comet?
Night of the Comet, sure.
That was a fucking good movie. I did mention that. That was on my 5.
Never scared in that movie. I was like, let's go.
Frankenstein. Always
the original Frankenstein, sure.
Yeah. American Werewolf in London.
That's a one that, that should be up way high on the list for what, especially like what it did for horror movies as a whole.
Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2's on, that's probably a top 10 for me.
Right.
And I say that over regular Evil Dead just because it had a budget.
Yeah.
Same movie.
Zombie from 78 or whatnot.
sure.
The Fulci zombie.
Yeah.
It's gross. It's disgusting. I love it. And when the eye gets pierced. Ah! But the birds. First time I saw the birds, I mean, it's not really scary, but what is created from it? No sound.
Yeah.
No music. It's just natural. And you're like, whoa. Because I did get to see it in the theater, and it was just...
As did I, yeah.
It was wonderful. Because you get to see that shit. You get to feel
it.
Yeah. You're there, and you're like, ah.
It goes back to, like, if you're... the conditions to which you watch a movie, and obviously the theater is the best of conditions generally.
Generally.
Yeah.
When you don't have somebody talking or something.
Right.
But when does that happen anymore?
I don't know.
I don't even pay attention if somebody is. I'm like,
The only thing that bothers me is when people turn on their phones.
Yeah.
And, like, the light.
Yeah, it's like, psh.
Yeah. I'm like, get the fuck away.
You immediately are like, huh? But it's no surprise that last one I want to mention is Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat, sure.
Sammy Kerr. They banned him from his high school. But we're going to play him tonight. Backwards.
And there is such a myriad of crappy horror movies that I love too. Rawhead Rex, Wes Craven's first movie. Popcorn.
Oh, shit.
Shocker.
Popcorn was fucking crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Shocker. Jesus Christ. Shocker had a lot of alumni from other movies. You know what I mean?
Shocker, very much kind of like a Fallen to some degree.
To some degree, yeah. But it was cooler.
Yeah. But you know, like there's so many that I could talk about. We could talk about horror movies for another hour.
Where do you put yourself in those? It's weird, you know, because there's so many different ones. There's so many different avenues you can go into, like Japanese horror.
Sure.
South Korean
The
horror.
Ringu?
No, that would be South Korean, I think, right?
I don't know.
I think so. Bon Hook Song.
Yeah.
I don't know what the name is, but what was the other one? That was just... Oh, I don't know. Dario Argento. Shit like that.
Sure.
You have the guy, Gaios or whatever you call him. There's just... The Japanese horror actually has their demon gods. And they show them in full fucking everything. And you're like, damn.
Well, I mean, I love some of the Japanese and Asian horror in general. Yeah. There's quite a bit. I like the Italian horror, which is definitely way different. You know what I mean?
It's gross body horror type shit.
Mostly.
Then you got Cronenberg. Cronenberg didn't show up on our list because...
Right.
Fucking A. Some of that shit's disgusting.
Yeah, well, and again, it's more body horror, sci-fi kind of stuff than it is necessarily scary horror movie.
Nightbreed, shit like that, yeah.
Like, and horror is so subjective. There's so many movies out there that people are scared of. There are children's movies. You like The Dark Crystal, Neverending Story. And for 100%, those are movies that people get scared during.
Right.
You know? There's a Legend was another one, you know? So there's a ton of movies like that. Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah. Fucking weird.
Yeah, but scary enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Whoa.
So, like, there's just so much that's interpretation. Like, I was reading some article about movies that people... weren't meant to be horror movies, but people were scared of, like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or something. And, like, a lot of them talked about, like, Return to Oz.
Wow. Whoa.
And, like,
fucking wicked movie, dude.
I don't know. It was definitely dark.
I knew it at the time, too, when it came out.
100%.
I was like, what the fuck is this?
I was like sitting with some kids that I was babysitting, so I was like 12 maybe.
Watching the wheelies.
I was an old kid, 12.
What?
And I'm like, we're watching this. And like, everybody's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, shut up, you little bastards. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But,
yeah,
but so like, I think that horror is very subjective.
Yes.
So what might be super scary or super disturbing for one person isn't for another.
Right.
And it just... Really
how it works
depends.
out.
Yeah.
And it's how it shakes out.
And there are movies that are ubiquitous.
Yeah.
With being scary as horror movies. And most of those will last.
Yes.
You know?
They'll be there forever. Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Fucking, you're gonna see these things always be around.
Yeah.
New Line Cinema, the house that Freddy built.
That's right. 100%.
I mean, there was a fucking saying about it. He was
Also,
in the trade papers.
If you play Mortal Kombat X and you want to win, just straight fucking kill everyone in that game, get Jason. You have Jason's a downloadable character.
Oh, nice.
And he's like having a cheat code for that game, dude.
I would like to play it.
I would also recommend the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre game.
Pretty
It's
cool.
multiplayer, and you choose to either be one of 3 members of the family or one of the 4 or 5 survivor people.
Wow.
It's super cool.
What's it on? Xbox?
Xbox is what I played it on.
Is it on
And it's
Nintendo?
free on the Game Pass.
Oh.
I'm sure it's not on the Nintendo, dude. That'd be the worst.
It would be
worst
awesome.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I played through because you have different family members that you can play as. So I played as one that was kind of like the stranger. I played as, of course, you have to play as Leatherface
Yeah,
at least once
yeah.
or twice.
Of
You know what
course,
I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
But they all have their own little niche of what they can do that the others can't, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the whole time you have to feed Grandpa blood to get him up to full power, so your powers are stronger.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That sounds like fun.
it's super cool.
Because I got the Jason movie, the Friday the 13th one.
Oh, yeah.
On Nintendo.
Okay,
But I
remember that.
I need to sit there and learn how to play it.
what was the best horror game I played back in the day was Splatterhouses. It was basically a little bit of your character's very much like Jason, but also you can get chainsaws
Right.
and kill shit like as you're going through.
The Friday the 13th Nintendo game Blue.
Yeah, of course.
Sucked.
Yeah.
It was like you were
I
playing
remember.
the card game
I remember.
from Part 6.
I remember renting and then at another time owning that game, and not because I wanted to play it. I just bought like a thing of used games,
Yeah,
and it was in there, and I was like, fuck.
cool idea.
Friday the 13th's cool.
Yeah.
This game sucks.
Execution sucked.
Yeah.
But that's our top 5s.
Yeah. Top 5
horror
horrors.
movies.
Let's go.
And that's going to be it for us today. Meet us on, what is it? dropculturesonly.com.
Whoa.
We just updated the site. Yeah, the Drop Culture Podcast. Look for us everywhere where vinyl is sold.
Yes. Check out our haunts.
Later, dudes. Happy Halloween.
Pieces.
Reese's Pieces.